Okay, let's get started. I know it's 8:30 and late for some people, and if you're watching the recording, we'll get that out to you. But just wanted to hop on here. We're really having a lot of conversations about peptides. I think that we're seeing a lot of it on social media. Most of us here are with the Faster Way, which is an incredible program. As a coach, I have clients now that have been with me for 3 years, and so they're really looking to optimize. They already have some great habits in place, which is exciting. So I just kind of wanted to start the conversation. Please send your questions that you have so I kind of know what direction you're leaning towards, or, other things that I can kind of give you some information on peptides. I've been talking to Kim here, who is also a Faster Way client. Hopefully, Dr. Barb is going to jump on here soon if her schedule allows. But I think that Kim has a wealth of knowledge. And I think it's helpful, too, to really hear someone's story. And I think that's going to be a powerful thing that she's going to share. I really like LEMD. Kim's been with them. I'm not sure how long. I'm sure she'll tell us, but a lot of us in the Faster Way, have really been very impressed with their service and their peptides and their knowledge. So I'm kind of eager to show you that part as well. So feel free to send me any questions you have. We'll do some follow-up Zooms too in the future, just so we can kind of expand. We know this is just kind of the beginning of the conversation. So I'll kind of turn it over to Kim, share with us a little bit about how long you've been with the Faster Way and a little bit about your story with peptides.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Kim. I have been a Faster Way client for a very long time. I actually started with the Faster Way like 9 years ago, before there was even apps and all the cool things that they have today. And I've been a VIP and then not a VIP and back and forth throughout the years. And I just really love the program. I've always recommended it to people when they're eager to learn nutrition, because I just feel like they make it really easy to understand. And the way that the coaching is set up, it's so helpful for people as they navigate this, because it can be hard to learn these new habits and then implement them. But I'm excited to share with you guys LEMD. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Is really how LEMD is transforming women's health through peptide therapy. They're a new company. They've only been around for a year, and I have been with them pretty much since they opened up their doors in June of 2024. They're a modern telehealth platform focused on hormone metabolism and longevity optimization. They connect patients with all licensed medical providers who create personalized science-backed protocols using pharmaceutical grade peptides. They do this all through simple virtual processes. Their mission is to help women rebalance hormones, improve their energy, build lean muscle, and reset their metabolism safely and sustainably. In short, LEMG makes cutting edge wellness accessible to everybody. They make it safe, and our efficacy on all of our products is super, super high. So I am super excited. I want to talk a little bit about my story and how I kind of got here, because I think as I've continued to share my story, so many people can resonate kind of where I am, and I never realized so many people felt like I did. So I guess I'll get into that, and then I'll pass it back over to Amy, and we'll talk a little bit more about like questions and just about the ordering process and what it looks like once you become a customer. Um, so I turned 40 and had COVID around the same time. But prior to that, I have always been very into health and wellness. I was a gymnast. Like I said, I tracked macros. I did the Faster Way, lifted weights. I walked, I was super active, live a very clean, healthy lifestyle as far as like personal care products, and cook fresh and don't eat a lot of processed food. So I did everything right. But when I turned 40, I had COVID about the same time. And after that, things just kept got getting kind of worse and worse and worse as time went on. I did have long COVID, and really felt foggy in my brain for about 3 to 6 months after I had it. As time went on, I was struggling with sleep. I actually lost my cycle. I was getting sick. Every other week, I was sick with a new virus, and I was just feeling just so stressed out, so overwhelmed. I was putting on weight, and I had like no energy. So I went to my doctor and talked to them about what was going on, referred me to my OBGYN, who put me on birth control. That made everything worse. So I came off the birth control. My doctor then put me in touch with a digestive specialist, because I was experiencing really terrible chronic constipation alongside of gas that sorry if it's TMI, but gas that would literally start at 2 o'clock every single day and go until the next day. And I was so distended in my stomach. It was hard for me to sleep, and I just was dragging all the time. So fast forward, I've been working with all these doctors, endocrinologists, gastrointestinal doctors, digestive specialists, going testing. I mean, we did CAT scans, genetics testing, all this stuff, and no one could really pinpoint an answer as to what was going on with my body. They wanted to medicate me. I didn't want to go on a prescription that came with a whole host of other side effects. I really just wanted to heal, and I felt that I should be able to through nutrition and lifestyle. Ended up tearing my ACL. In May of 2023, jumping on a trampoline with my daughter because I think I'm a gymnast, even though I'm not, and had to go through that reconstruction surgery, which is really hard to recover from, especially at the ripe old age of 44, too. I was 42 at the time. And so I had put on with that surgery about 15 pounds because I was pretty much couch ridden for 4 to 6 months or weeks. And then after that, the recovery process was just so hard. You know, you can't really walk a lot, you can't get the steps in. And it was awful. Like, you know, I was fighting so hard before just to maintain my weight that it just came on so easily once I was kind of down and out. And so as I came out of that surgery, I hired a functional doctor because no Western medicine doctors could help me or give me answers. So I worked with him coming out of that surgery, went on a very strict diet for 8 months, and really did low inflammatory foods, continued with blood testing and all the things. My blood work was less than optimal, was pretty poor for someone who did all the things right. I wasn't absorbing nutrients. I had autoimmune markers, high cortisol. I had um, high cholesterol and just a lot of things that just didn't look like the picture of health that you would think would be somebody like me. So worked with him for 8 months, did every protocol he said, did like a detox, we did some gut stuff, all the things. I felt pretty good, but at the end of the 8 months, I was like, wow, okay, I feel better. I can feel the inflammation's gone. My joints aren't hurting. But as soon as we started to introduce new foods, the foods back in, everything kind of came back. And that had been the story throughout my whole journey. It was like I would do these strict diets or these protocols, and then the minute I would go back to normal eating, everything came back as if I had done nothing. And so we repooled labs 8 months after I worked with him, and everything was exactly the same. Not one thing was better, not one thing had changed. And he was really stumped. And he was like, well, you know, maybe we should look at doing the carnivore diet. And I was like, I can't do one more diet. I really, I just cannot. I'm burnt out and I just have to live my life. This is just who I am. And so, am I frozen? Oh, I'm back. I'm back. Okay. And so I he was just like, well, you know, what about microdosing? My counterparts are seeing a lot of results. It's kind of new. And I was like, well, what's that? You know, I didn't know. And he's like, well, we would take GLP-1 peptides and you take small dose. And I said, you know, again, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what a peptide was. And when he told me, well, you may know it as brand name Ozempic, I was like, what? I thought he was absolutely insane. I totally wrote him off. I actually told him I thought that was crazy. And no way, I would never doing that. You know, I heard all the horror stories and the bad things that are all over the internet, and totally wrote it off. So I'm like, I just wasted, you know, $13,000. I can't believe it. 8 months, and this guy's a quack. And so I was like, I am going to do it again. I'm going to go on another diet. So I did. I went on another diet for like 4 more months because I was determined. And I was like, I don't know what I thought would change this time. Literally nothing. I cut calories. I thought if I could get the weight off, it would be better. So I cut the calories down and I lost a pound a month over 4 months. Super frustrating. Went to Italy on vacation with a bunch of people, my husband, and gained all of the weight back. Was digestively sick the entire time. And I was so frustrated. So when I got back, I had been talking to a friend of mine who, lo and behold, was on a GLP-1. She was microdosing it. And she was telling me all about it and about her results. And I was really like blown away. And as I kind of started to talk to more people about what the doctor had told me, I found out more people were using GLP-1s than I ever imagined. And in all different ways. So I started doing my own research, and what I found was pretty amazing. I was looking and listening to different people who've been using them for years on patients, and what I learned is that peptides are actually regenerative at a cellular level. So they're not like a typical pharmaceutical where it's really just putting a band-aid on a symptom. They actually heal us and they regenerate the way that our cells functioned previously. So once I kind of learned a little bit more, and I just got so fed up with my situation, I was like, I'm just going to give this a try. I'm going to order it. I'm going to just take it really low and slow and see where it goes. If I feel sick, if I don't feel, I'll just stop. Like it will stop. I've already spent so much money. So what's a little bit more, at this point? Um, and so I did. I started actually this week was my year anniversary, microdosing tirzepatide. So I did it right before the holidays, which was honestly like the best thing ever for me. And I will tell you, a week in, I was blown away. I felt so much better. My rings, like I didn't realize the inflammation I was holding in my joints. My rings were loose on my fingers. My face was so much more depuffed. By Christmas, I was down 8 pounds, which a lot of that was inflammational weight, not fat loss. But my digestion was like completely changed. I didn't have any more gas. I was going to the bathroom regularly. I was sleeping through the night. I wasn't depending on gas X and different things to just get me through the day. I noticed too that the food noise kind of went away, and I didn't realize how obsessed I was with food. And I think I was obsessing over it because I didn't know if it was food causing my issues, but I was so worried about getting the food and making sure I was eating the right things because I was trying to heal myself. And so it was kind of like a whole bunch of stress just came off my body. By April, I was down about 16 pounds and hormonally, my cycles got better. I felt just like a whole different person. My brain fog lifted, and I actually had labs done just in September to kind of check in and see where things were because I'm coming up on that year. And when I had them done, I mean, it was like optimal. The difference of the labs from a year prior to where I was and where I am now, current date, is night and day. My B's, my iron, my D's, everything was optimal. My inflammation was down, my cortisol was down, my cholesterol was down, no autoimmune markers in sight. And A1C, like fasting glucose, everything was just perfection, like perfect. Even my hormones were, they were a little low on the testosterone, but my estrogen and progesterone, which I do take HRT now, but those had improved even a little bit too. So it was all in all like a great picture. My doctor was actually blown away by the results from microdosing. With the microdosing, I've also added in some other things. Like I mentioned, I had torn my ACL and my meniscus, so I had added in BPC 157 TB 500. That is a healing and recovery peptide. And that really changed my life and my body in the gym. I was able to go from not being able to do one leg extension on the leg extension machine in over a year's time to being able to do 12 reps for 3 sets at about 45, 50 pounds. So pretty amazing. I'm building my legs back. I can see the muscle definition coming. I do cycle that on 4 months, come off 4 months. So that's been kind of in the rotation for the past 8 months for me. But I've done things like NAD as well. NAD is amazing for cellular energy, for brain fog. If you have a squirrely brain, it's so good. It also helps to increase your metabolism a little bit because it does powerhouse the cell. And if you're not familiar with what NAD is, it's a coenzyme that lives in our cells. And as we age, we lose it. So by the time we're 40, we have half of what we had when we were born. And that's what attributes to cellular aging and the ability of the cells to replicate at a really efficient way. So if we can replace the NAD, we can actually help the cells to age backward. And science shows that they actually do increase the telomere length, which is one of the keys to longevity. But glutathione is a master antioxidant. It's actually probably one of my most favorite peptides. It is awesome for skin brightening, anti-aging, makes you feel amazing, good for immunity. And we all know we live in a toxic soup with our environment. So when we can add that in, especially after a fat loss phase, because when we do burn fat, we release a lot of the toxins that are stored in our fat. We have like toxic fat, and we have different kinds of fat cells, and some are good and some are bad. And so when we release that, glutathione can help move that out and really clean house. So what's going to end up happening is that anything we do, whether it's a diet, whether it's taking supplements, they're just going to work better because our cells, the house is clean and they can just work a little bit better. So I've used a lot of different peptides, and so I'm happy to answer any questions, but that is my story. I have been microdosing, like I said, for a year now. It's quite literally changed my life. And I cannot believe I had 3 years of struggle, spent over, I think I've spent like close to $23,000 on care. And it was just this one thing I was nervous about. And I'm so glad I did it because it's been life altering for me. So that's it. That is
Thank
my
you.
story.
Thank you, Kim, for sharing that. That's powerful. I think that, from my standpoint, walking some clients through GLP journeys, I see more of it now the last year, year and a half in coaching. But it's really been eye-opening to myself as I've really battled some insulin resistance, high blood glucose, and it's hard when your labs don't match all of your lifestyle, how hard you're working. So I think that's humbling. I think NAD is something that I'm definitely leaning towards that was, high interest in our VIP group. I think a lot of us have concerns about, the types of pharmacies that people get these from. I know I've seen some clients or just friends who've had to reconstitute their meds themselves, or they've gotten them from places and they just, give themselves too much. So I always worry about that part and the pharmacy part. So I know that's a lot of things that we've talked about. I talk to my clients about. Especially some of these medications need to come cold. And, I've had friends say they come, hot. What should I do? And I'm like, send them back. So I just think that, there's a power in doing your research. And that's why I kind of, have liked Ellie as far as that goes. So if you could just talk more maybe about the type of pharmacies that Ellie uses, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So before I started with Ellie, I did a lot of research. I even scan the shampoo I use like into the EWG app to see, how clean it is. I very much pay attention to that sort of thing. So obviously, if I'm going to use something like this, I wanted to make sure it was of the highest quality. And when I went to Ellie and asked the tough questions, they were very transparent with everything. They are NABP certified. They triple filter all of their products, so everything goes through a rigorous third-party testing. They remove all the heavy metals. They're removing any lifetime chemicals that can sit inside our body that can stack up over time and cause harm later on in life. They also remove lipopolysaccharides, which are something that we definitely want nothing to do with. So they're just an amazing company, and they really do go that extra mile to make sure that we are the safest product on the market. In addition, they fill with all of their active ingredients. So the actual peptide itself is coming from a FDA manufacturing facility, which is super important because they're adhering to the strictest standards and guidelines. So this is going to be right in line with anything you would get from big pharma, from, it's very, very, has very high oversight. And then we do fill in a 503A compounding pharmacy. And I do want to mention that not all 503A compounding pharmacies are the same. You want to dig deeper when you're exploring these things to know, where the peptides are coming from. Now, they might not tell you exactly the facility that they're coming from, but you do want to see the COA, the potency records, and you want to know that they are coming from a FDA regulated manufacturing facility, the actual active ingredient. It's super, super important. They don't put any preservatives in their product as well. Everything comes shipped straight to your house with everything you need. You get all the medication at one time, your syringes, your alcohol wipes, instructions on how to inject. In the weight loss products, they said in Zofran, you get a guide, you get a whole bunch of other stuff with that. So they do give a lot of value. In addition, all of the prescribers with Ellie are MDs and DOs. So when you come on board as a customer with Ellie MD, you do have a patient portal with 24/7 access to a provider, and not only just an MD or DO. That these specific MDs and DOs are trained on peptide therapy, so they're not, one day writing somebody a prescription for strep throat and then coming here and writing you your peptide therapy. They are strictly doing peptide therapy, and so they're very highly trained on that. And so for me, I feel like that was just really important. When I asked for all the information from Ellie, they gave it over without question, and that really told me everything I needed to know, where others just really didn't want to send that information or didn't have it. So um, yeah, I always just say, not all 503A is the same. You gotta ask the tough questions. And if a price is really, really good and cheap, there's probably a reason for that being that way.
Sure. Another question that someone asked was about the NAD. Is it something that you come on and off of? Is it something you stay on? And is it something you have to kind of titrate up and down, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So with NAD, how we prescribe NAD is we prescribe it in a 2-month protocol. And we do titrate you up. So it can be kind of a rush for some people in the beginning when they take it. You do have to inject that very slow. You want to go very slow in the injection process because you can get a little bit of a head rush. It kind of feels like, whoo, you feel it. So we do titrate up. We start with a tier 1, and you'll be on there for 2 months. And that does start with a smaller dose, and then the second month it goes up a little bit more. And then when you go to your third month, you would reorder, and then you would get the full protocol dose for another 2 months. With NAD, there's different schools of thought on it. You can certainly stay on. Some people will stay on forever, come off and rest their receptors for a couple weeks and come back on. It's really up to the individual, or some people won't come completely off, but maybe they'll space their dosing out. Instead of doing every week, they'll go, every 2 weeks. And then some people, it's really just personal, like what your goals are and what you're looking for. I like to personally do different cycles because I want to try to get the benefits of all of them. So I always tell people too, like, if you're going to do something like NAD, maybe start with, like, you could start with it, but I like to do glutathione before I do NAD because it cleans up my cell. And then when I do the NAD, my cells are really clean and clear and they're really working well. So when I do the NAD, I get the most like bang for my buck, so to speak.
Okay, another question we had was, can they get some add-ons to it? Like some people want to do the B12, the glycine, those kind of things as well.
Yeah, so we actually just launched, which is really exciting. No one else is doing this. We're kind of like the pioneers, personalized peptides. We did start in the weight loss category, so only weight loss clients can get this. So you do have to have a BMI of 20, um, 5 plus comorbidities, or 27 with no comorbidities to get it. But you can personalize your peptides by adding things like glycine, L-carnitine, and B12. And so those are boosters. You can add one, two, all three, but they really help with muscle preservation, focus, energy, digestion, inflammation. And so they really are just giving you some boost along your protocol. We will be adding that to the to the microdosing as well in the near future, but this was just like our first foot in the door. And it's really interesting too, LEMD. We have our own dedicated pharmacy, so that's what allows us to do this, all LEMD workers, and that's what allows us to be able to have this personalization.
I think another concern was to, how do I know if this doesn't interfere with other medicines? I've tried to, when I talk to clients, I think it's important that they do a personal intake. They need, those questions need to be on the forms, which I've seen with Ellie as I've kind of looked into the NAD. The questions they ask, one, it is HIPAA private too. It's not something that gets shared with anybody besides you and the provider. But you do have quite an assessment form. Do you have to continue to fill that out monthly? How do you update that, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I can take you a little bit through the ordering process. So you'd select your product, create a patient portal account. At that time, you'll be asked to fill out a medical history questionnaire that is tied to the peptide that you're looking at. And so they do want you to have labs within, right now it's in the last 3 years. I always tell people to try to have them within the year. I think it's the best thing to do. And they do want you to have a physical within the last 3 years as well. So they will ask you, what medications you are on, any pre-existing conditions, a whole bunch of different questions that are personal to you. And then when you submit that, you'll be taken to a checkout page and you'll pay for your peptides. And once you pay for them, all your information goes to the doctor. From there, dependent on which state you're in, it either gets reviewed and you don't need to have a virtual visit, it goes to the pharmacy if you're approved, and it gets shipped right to your house with everything you need. But if you're in a state that requires a virtual visit, that will be scheduled with you. The doctors now are also asking for some pictures. They want to make sure that no one's trying to get GLP-1s that, could be abusing them. We want to make sure that we're prescribing to the people that need them and are using them appropriately. So they may ask for some pictures. So after you get your products and you go through your protocol, if you're on a weight loss product, you will get a reassessment email about 2.5 months in, where you will fill out another medical history question. The doctor will have some questions for you. And can you hear me? I know I'm frozen.
I can hear you. You are frozen, but I
Okay.
can hear you.
In the nose itch. Um, so they'll do that. So they'll ask you, they'll reassess them. They'll re-ask for weight and some different things. They want to make sure that you're not having any adverse side effects. And then, you'll go through the checkout process and reorder. If you don't respond to that, they will just auto renew you and you will get just exactly what you ordered before. With the microdosing, it is a 3-month subscription and then it does auto renew at the end of the 3 months. They do send about 5 to 7 emails, so you're very aware of when it's coming. And you can always log into your patient portal anytime and change it, postpone it, do whatever you need. With the longevity peptides, which are more going to be your NAD, your glutathione, Simorelin, things like that, these are typically 2 to 3 months. They vary depending on the peptide, and those don't auto renew. So if you did want to reorder, you would have to physically go in when you're getting close to the end, and reassess and refill that out. Eventually, we will be doing like quizzes where you can do cycles and different things. So we'll have some different options, but that's the way it functions right now.
All right. I think that's, some of the main questions so far. I think that it's going to be exciting. I'm eager to kind of give it a try and just, give honest feedback about the whole process.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you kind of taking the time to walk us through kind of your story and your journey with Ellie. So I appreciate you taking the time tonight for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And any questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Will do. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Amy.